Hello, my name is John Teply, and today I have the great pleasure to be talking with Anna Lancaster.
Hi, John.
Hi, thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you for inviting me.
I've always admired your paintings. I mean, you have this ability to have very expressive brushstrokes, and you seem to be always in the search for the beautiful things that we have around us, and different elements such as composition and line quality is very important.
Yes, it is.
But something that I think is just amazing about the way that you work is there always seems to be a sense of gratitude in being an artist and being able to paint.
Yes, I am. That is something I am very grateful for. I am not very academically inclined, definitely not a analytical brain type person, and struggled terribly in school. In fact, my dad, who like my son, who had that incredible ability to be both artistic and analytical, had a very hard time understanding, but understood that I needed something, some way to something to do, something for a purpose. And he started me drawing when I was as early as I can remember, and as father and daughters often have, and him being a very strict Sicilian immigrant Italian, was very protective of his daughters and his sons. And I remember him giving my older brother privileges, who he himself was a masterful artist. He always amazed my dad that his design, he loved cars, he loved anything with wheels, and anything that floated on the water. And I kind of inherited that from my brother Jerry's instruction for when, at times when my dad and I were not speaking and I wanted nothing to do with him teaching me anything, he would encourage my brother to keep me in it, because I think he could tell by my lack of academic prowess that this girl needs something. And so that was how he bridged that gap.
So your father is an artist?
My father has passed away, and he wanted to be an artist, but he became first a mechanical draftsman, because that was how to earn a living. He came over from Sicily when he was 7 years old with his parents, and he had a hard time. And from what I'm told, my grandmother was a bit of a tyrant. And so he left home at age 16 and joined the Conservation Corps. And he learned some very important things. One was the most important thing, because if you know anything about, people who come from other countries, they tend to, or at least back in the days where people were, coming through Ellis Island, would try to live as close to each other from the homeland as possible. And so, there were little Italies all over, New York and New Jersey. And my dad's leaving home, he said, helped him to this, I'm going to say it the way he said, get along with Medigan, which is not a very nice, it's kind of like an equivalent to, for the Hispanic community, gringo. The other thing that he learned was he did not want to do manual labor. And he he was spotted as having someone who had a lot of intelligence, and he was very mathematically adept. And so he was encouraged by his foreman, Alex, this is probably not going to be a forever thing for you. He said, but you really need to get yourself in school. And because there were things that was important to the CCs at that time, logistics, getting things from one place to another. And he was recognized as being very helpful in that. And so he was really encouraged to go to school, and that was what he did. He went to he took a placement test and passed, getting his what would be then, back in the 30s, the equivalent of a GED. And he then went to Newark College of Engineering, and that was where he learned drafting, and he eventually became a draftsman designer.
So now I'm looking at the painting behind you. So his love of everything with motors in it is something that you picked up, and you took it on as a subject matter.
A lot. I had the pleasure of listening to Joanne Coleman's interview with you, and there was one thing Joanne always said to me. She said, when we would go out and plein air paint, either for an event, and she came up on me one day, and I was painting a tractor, and she said, well, if it's got wheels, there's going to be Anna Lancaster behind there painting. She would find me there. So
as a subject matter, can you talk about what you like about and clearly your subject matter is not just tractors and boats and things, but what is it that draws you towards those as subject matter?
I am usually drawn by subject matter by if I'm painting in a landscape, it's the light and dark. What I see as a composition when I'm looking around, and I can start to envision in my mind what that might look like on the canvas. Not that I'm always successful at pulling off what my mind's eye is seeing and thinking about, but I make the attempt. And as far as subjects, I have a lot of different subject matter that I love. I mean, the one thing that my dad started me with was the proportions of the face. When I was learning to draw the proportions of the face when I was in kindergarten, first grade, second grade. And he started actually showing me the proportions of the body and how to work out a realistic stick figure person, make it look three-dimensional with shading. And so I light and dark, and so he was already and we always had books upon books of all different artists around the house, and he took art lessons. My oldest brother is the proud owner of his drawings and pastels that he did in art school, and he was always drawing. And we had a big green chalkboard in our kitchen, because my dad would, if something came into his mind, he'd be working equations. And between him and my brother Jerry, there was the artwork that was never going to stay there long. And it was so interesting because they figured out, they both had that ability to basically draw with chalk on a dartboard, and it would be there for, you didn't know how long it would be. My mom would always, she said, it breaks my heart every time I see, I get that look in his eye and he's erasing that masterpiece that he just did. But he did do a lot on paper that, and of course but he, I have to say that he didn't think I was going to become an artist because he didn't feel like I had the discipline for it, where he saw a tremendous amount of discipline in my brother. But when I discovered oil painting through my mentor, Carol Stone, I became very driven about learning. And he got very excited when I started photographing my work and sending home print reproductions of them. And so he was very excited about the fact that I was getting to the point where I was starting to paint professionally and then market my art.
So when you have a blank canvas in front of you, what are some of your first thoughts as you're developing ideas on what the painting is going to be like?
Yeah, well, that's always a little different for me, whether I'm painting in plein air or whether I'm painting in the studio.
What is the difference?
The difference for me? Well, yeah. You know that whenever you photograph something, and oftentimes when we paint in plein air, we will take a picture of the shot, of the view that draws us, and that photograph is never going to inform you in the way when you're out there and you're actually seeing the light, which is changing quickly. So you do have to develop a process where you're getting in that light and dark, at least in a no tan underpainting form, and then you have to stick with it. So you get the idea by what stops you in your tracks when you're out on location. But when you're going back through your photographs, and I'm always taking photographs of things that just going out for a walk. I've probably taken pictures of the same subject matter area in my neighborhood dozens of times, maybe getting close to tens of dozens of times, because it's always looking different, either when it's raining, when it's sunny, when you have golden light, when you have a lot of overhead ambient light, just everything looks different, but nothing looks like when you're out there. So you have to try to make up for what is not the wow that you can't see. You have to try to either remember from that photograph, if you haven't done a plein air study of it, and put your ability to compose a composition and a light and dark composition that's going to work, and try to bring in some of what as far as how color, the color relationships outside apply in the studio. And I've been taking some for actually a longtime student of Zabu, who you know very well and love, and she for her, I mean, it's like her master of the visual is so strong and so developed over her years of painting and also working as a animation artist for Disney. She tells that story. It's just something that seems to flow out of her, and that's the difference between the master and the student. It just magic happens, and it seems almost effortlessly, but the truth is, of course, there's years of struggle that's behind that.
Yeah, and there is. I'm looking at the painting behind you of the three boats, and and it seems, looking at it, that you, kind of composed those boats, you know, for for a strong painting. How much of what we are looking at in the painting was actually there, and how much of it did you change?
Well, I did take out the chain link fence that was behind, the hurricane fence
Yes.
that was behind the boats. I can actually show you. Let me just real quickly grab this off the wall here. But that is actually an enlargement of a plein air piece that I did at the Eric Sandgren, who you also know and love, when he did his Sandgren paint out up in the Astoria and Lovell area. So that is in Washington, across the. I think it's Waco that is right across from Astoria. You go over the bridge, and I had the. It was a wonderful experience. We painted at Cape Disappointment and a few other places, and Christina Sellers and I did some riding around, and we found harbor. And there was, of course, a boat boneyard. And there were a lot of boats there, but those three particular boats that they're very close to. I did change the position of one of them. There was one that was more off to the side that I made, that I brought to the center and eliminated one that was directly in front of me. But the dinghy was there, the sailboat, and this trawler here. So there was a lot, and I have to admit that I did embellish a little bit more of the trees and hills that were behind it, making it look a little more dramatic. And it was actually a very overcast day when I painted the plein air. So if you notice, the actual plein air painting has those more Pacific Northwest kind of ambient light, constantly cloudy look to it. But with the I started playing around with a little bit of just quick gesture painting with light and color, because when I did I love I'm very drawn to golden hour lighting. I love it. And so I had been doing a lot of boats with golden hour lighting up in the gorge. And I decided when I did the enlargement for the smaller plein air painting, I gave it more of that late light, golden light, as the where you're getting a lot of deep shadows in the trees.
Sure,
and
sure.
objects are really catching the light.
So in the plein air painting, there's something that the work is more in a line with the circumstances of light, et cetera, that you actually see. But then when you take it into your studio, you bring in other qualities. Some of the qualities may be, if you had your ideal light, like the golden light, you bring that in, which what you did with the boats. I mean, the boats are beautiful, and it has that light, of slight glow.
Definitely use more than one plein air painting to to do a larger work indoors. Which is what plein air is for. You know, it has become in its own right a genre that is for a lot of artists is kind of like the end all. But for almost every plein air artist that I have ever met or talked to, they've always said that plein air painting is mostly to inform their studio work.
Sure, sure. No, I would go out and do plein air paintings, and you know, and in the afternoon I might do like 90% of, you know, of the work. Then I would take it to my studio
Mhm.
and spend the next, you know, 3 weeks doing that last 10%.
Oh.
You know, but you're able to try, you know, you can search for something other than what the time that you have when you're doing plein air, you know, you can do. So now,
Yeah, because the light is changing quick, and you're for most plein air painters, they're, you know, they're using elements in what they're looking at where the light has already changed to inform how to stick with the with that first light and dark composition. So you're, you know, you already are having to, you know, but of course there are plein air painters that they get those their strokes are at a minimum, and they can put out something very quickly, and sometimes, you know, not a small painting within a time frame of when the light is going to change substantially. Of course, at the, you know, the height of the solstice, you have the light that's going to change the least. So you've got a better shot of pulling something off in 2 to 3 hours. But anything past that, even when you have our longest Pacific Northwest days, it's you know, it's still changing a lot, and you do have to try to, if you, there's something called chasing the, you know, plein air artists say, and it's a something that you don't want to do, and that's to chase the light, because then you lose what is the where composition is not necessarily intuitive. There's something that you saw that was pleasing, that was really pleasing, the way the angles, you know, the angles where the light hit. There was a basic composition that your eye recognized, and it goes away quickly. And so that's kind of why you have to really try to, if you're trying to go with what really caught you and not end up with a schizophrenic composition that doesn't read very well, because you're putting light and shadow where it doesn't belong.
So in your painting, you know, there's an importance for things to be inspirational, and there's gratitude actually with just the act of painting. Is that correct? When you're painting, that there's a sense of gratitude of being a painter and being able to do certain things. Could you talk about that, about where that comes from?
Well, for me, in particular, that sense of gratitude has a lot to do with the ups and downs of maturing from a adolescent into an adult. I had a very rebellious and tumultuous adolescence, and got myself into some situations as far as physical addiction. And art was one of the things that kept me from giving up in despair, because I was very frightened. When you're out of control and you are you're thinking there, it's just not possible that I'm going to have a long shelf life here, because of the life that you're living. And the gratitude of my faith that helped me to overcome that is, and give me the ability to do not just art, but so many other things that I just love to do. It, you know, it's something that you're just thankful that that your life has purpose, and you get to recognize really quickly where you can use your talents when you're not bound up in a situation that is leaving you incoherent and detached from real life. Real life is hard, but there's great growth in suffering. There's it's not fun, but and sometimes, you know, you've heard the old saying, whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Well, you know, I believe God allows us to, you know, to go through things because we have possibilities of doing things that can be of a very good impact if we're strong enough to do it. One of the things about art that always seemed to have been linked, and it was from even within that very crazy, those very crazy and dangerous teenage years for me, was music as well. And that the fact that I've been able to use both art and music in a ministry sense, and also helping other teenagers who are going through stuff. Right now, our worship team has been training the younger members of our congregation at Esperanza Horizon, and I'm training helping train a bass player and actually two bass players, and because our one our one percussionist, Paco, is also learning bass. And so that's also has come in, you know, where I've been able to draw on my training as a graphic artist and developing materials for their music. And I'm always you know, when I'm in the studio, I always have music playing. It just for me, especially the Hispanic worship music that we do, and worship music in general, helps me to disconnect from troubles that grieve me in a way that I'm not completely disconnected, but I'm coping and processing and learning about the strength that I need to be able to do the things that I believe that God has for me. If you had told me that I would be arranging piano music, guitar music, and bass music for a group of musicians, I am not qualified. My sister is an excellent musician. She tried to teach me piano. I rebelled even against that. I insisted that I didn't want to learn, and now I could, it's one of those, if you could have gone back and done something differently, I would not have abrupted lessons with my sister, because she was trying to push me to develop and to be better, and I took resentment to it. I was a very I was a little bit of a Sicilian hothead.
Well,
not very teachable, especially at that age.
Well, we've been talking with Anna Lancaster, who is a really fine artist, and it's been a pleasure hearing about your work and you go about developing it. And well, we hope to see you more in the future. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, John.
Okay, bye for now.
Bye.